Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Beauty of Language and Literature. So now I'll be starting the videos on the poetry series, the poems that will be asked in the ICSE board exams 2021. So stay tuned to find out the summary and analysis of the poems that you are supposed to study for the board's exam. So here the first poem that I'll be dealing today with is The Heart of the Tree. After seeing this video, I hope you will not need to go through the book again and again. If you need to understand the poem even more, then you can go through the video just twice or thrice, and I think that will be enough to prepare you for your board exams. And as you know, poetry is the most beautiful part of this language and literature. So the more you understand and feel it, the more you will be able to express yourself in regard to the questions in the exam. So the poem The Heart of the Tree is one of the important poems that can be asked in the ICSE board exams. And children, as you all know, the pattern of the questions that are asked in the poem means you just don't need to know the line by line summary. You also need to understand the overall theme and the significance of the poem. Suppose a paragraph will be given to you in the exams, and from that paragraph, questions related to it will be asked. So unless and until you know the summary line by line as well as the overall meaning, you will not be able to answer the questions effectively. So here today we'll start with the summary and analysis of the poem The Heart of the Tree. The poem The Heart of the Tree is written by one of the great American poet and novelist Henry Bunner. It is a fine piece of poetry with a very simple theme and a simpler structure. This poem was originally published in 1912. So, as we all know, children, that planting a tree has always been a great work for mankind. But the poet has found out new ways to look at the plants and plantations. In his poem, The Heart of the Tree, he glorifies the act even further and shows how a tree helps life on earth and says that it has direct connection to a nation's growth. So basically there are 3 stanzas in the poem, and all the 3 stanzas start with the refrain. You must be wondering what a refrain is. Then let me tell you what a refrain is. Refrain is that part of a song or a poem which is repeated, usually at the end of the verse or stanza. The poet asks through this poem, what does a man actually plant who plants a tree? Then he chooses to answer this question by himself and shows what a tree means to humankind and to nature, thus providing how great that man is. The rhythm of the poem is amazing, and the rhyme scheme is A B A B B C C A A. Let me repeat it to you again. The rhyme scheme is A B A B B C C A A. So this is a deviation from the celebrated Spenserian stanza, that is a 9-line stanza with the scheme A B A B B C B C C. Though the language is simple, the careful usage of wordings makes the poem more expressive and obviously musical and attractive. Now let us start the line by line explanation of this beautiful poem, The Heart of the Tree. So the poem starts with these lines. What does he plant who plants a tree? He plants a friend of sun and sky. So the poem opens with a refrain, as I mentioned earlier, which asks, what does he plant who plants a tree? And that sets the tone for the entire poem. We realize instantly that the poet is going to explain the usefulness of planting a tree. However, he himself answers by stating that the man plants a friend of sun and sky by planting a tree. A plant grows upwards and aims to reach the sun and the sky. So, it is as if they get a new friend in a tree. Secondly, the tree needs sunlight and air to survive. And finally, the tree seems to absorb the heat and save the earth from the scorching sun, giving an implication that sun becomes friendly in the presence of trees. So the next lines are, he plants the flag of breezes free, the shaft of beauty towering high. The speaker now adds that the man plants a flag that flies freely in the mild breeze. The poet here compares the leafy branches of the tree to a flag and the stem to a beautiful shaft, that is, the pole of the flag that stands tall. He plants a home to heaven and I, for song and mother croon of a bird. This means that by planting a tree, the man plants a home for the sweet singing birds high in the sky near heaven. So, he keeps the earth habitable for birds and helps maintain the ecosystem. The next lines are, in hushed and happy twilight heard the treble of heaven's harmony. These things he plants who plants a tree. So, in quiet and happy twilight, we can hear those birds chirping, which is harmonious to heaven's own tunes. This is where the first stanza ends. Now, let us have a quick look at the analysis of this stanza. So, in the entire stanza of the heart of the tree, the poet accentuates the importance of trees in maintaining the holistic beauty of nature. Moreover, the use of words like heaven and I, heaven's harmony and towering high is aimed at giving an impression that the work of planting a tree is indeed a heavenly and glorious deed. The finishing line of the stanza forms a logical whole with the opening line, one asking a question and the other completing the answer. So moving on to the second stanza of the poem, it starts with, what does a man plant who plants a tree? He plants cool shade and tender rain. The poet again repeats the question to begin a new stanza and attempts to answer again in the subsequent lines. The tree he plants provides us the cool shade and helps in bringing rain. The next line is, and seed and bud of days to be and years that fade and flush again. These lines mean that a tree will produce seed and bud in future. Years will pass silently, but the tree will remain there through its seeds, producing new trees. He plants the glory of the plain, he plants the forest's heritage. The poet means to say that the trees are the main elements that make a plain area green and beautiful. So he describes trees as the glory of the plain. Moreover, today's single tree may turn into a forest someday. So by planting a tree, one man plants a forest's heritage. Next is, the harvest of a coming age, the joy that unborn eyes shall see. These things he plants who plants a tree. The speaker mentions that planting a tree today would give fruits in the coming days. Our next generations would be delighted seeing so much vegetation and reap its benefits. So all the credit goes to the man who plants a tree. Now this is where the second stanza ends. Let us have a look at a quick analysis. Now, in this stanza of the poem, The Heart of the Tree, the poet stresses on the importance of planting a tree for making this earth a better place to live for future generations. Moving on to the third stanza of the poem, what does he plant who plants a tree? He plants in sap and leaf and wood. In love of home and loyalty, his far-cast thought of civic good, his blessings on the neighborhood. So the speaker says that by planting a tree, the man shows his love and loyalty for his Mother Earth, which is his home also, his sense of civic duty and his blessings on the neighborhood. All these are reflected in the sap and leaf and wood, that is, in every cell of the tree. Next poem is, who in the hollow of his hand holds all the growth of all our land. A nation's growth from sea to sea stirs in the heart who plants a tree. The poet says here that by planting a tree, the man directly or indirectly contributes to the nation's growth. When a tree is planted, it sets in motion the progress of a nation from sea to sea. And all these start from the progressive thought in the man's heart who plants a tree. And this is how the poem ends here. Let us look at the analysis of this stanza. Now, the capitalization of his indicates that the man who plants a tree is all powerful and the destiny maker of this nation. This last line is very important as it talks about the man's heart, his feelings, his dreams and wishes behind planting a tree. This also leads to the poem's title, that is, The Heart of the Tree. Thus the poet ends up composing an uncommon piece of poetry in the heart of the tree out of a common and cliché topic, the usefulness of planting a tree. Now, let me tell you the poetic devices used in this poem. In the exam, mostly these kind of questions are asked, that suppose few lines will be pointed out in the question and you will be asked to point which poetic device has been used here. So let us see which poetic devices has been used in this poem, The Heart of the Tree. So the poem, The Heart of the Tree, is full of poetic devices. There are several poetic devices used in this poem, and the devices are as follows. The first one is alliteration. So the poet has deployed alliteration in many places to add to the rhythm of the poem. For a reminder, let me tell you what alliteration is. It is basically a poetic device in which there is the constant repetition of the constant sounds at the beginning of stressed syllables or words. The next poetic device is personification. The poet personifies the tree when he calls it a friend of the sun and sky. Now, another poetic device used is metaphor. So, metaphor is basically an implied comparison between two different things when there is a point of similarity, like the flag of breeze is free and the shaft of beauty towering high. Here, the leafy branches of a tree are compared to a flag and the stem is compared to a beautiful shaft standing high. These are the main poetic devices used which you need to know. Now, if you want to know a little further and in little detail, then there are other poetic devices also, like circumlocution, metonymy, transferred epithet, enumeration, and polysyndeton. After covering the poetic devices, now let us discuss the theme of the poem. Talking of themes, the poem might actually have a number of themes, though the primary focus is on why trees are important for human existence. So, the first theme is the usefulness of trees. This is the prominent theme of the poem as the poet describes how a tree helps in keeping this earth habitable. Second is appreciation of natural beauty. Henry Bunner here shows his appreciation and demands the same from the readers for beautiful aspects of nature. He wants us to love nature and its objects in order to help ourselves live better. The comparison of a tree to a flag of breezes free and to a heavenly home for birds says it all. The next theme is responsibility for future generations. In the entire second stanza, the poet has talked about our responsibility to make this world a better place for our future generations. Duties to fellow men and nation. In the third stanza of the poem, the poet talks about man who can perform his duties towards his neighbors and to his nation by planting a tree. So this was it, children, all about the poem The Heart of the Tree. I hope you understood the poem well. So stay tuned for the explanation of the next poem, that is The Cold Within by James Patrick Kinney. This is me, Beauty Bharadwaj. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you.